It's about the view. It's like, it's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like, it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like, it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were
Sunny Hostin just found out the hard way that bringing a butter knife to a Gutfeld roast is a terrible idea. Kat Timpf and Greg Gutfeld tag-teamed her into a meltdown so brutal it could be studied in psychology textbooks under how to trigger tears with sarcasm. What did they say? Why did Sunny nearly combust on live TV? Grab your popcorn. This takedown was so epic, even Joy Behar pretended not to know her. Let's dive into the chaos.
He's such a group. It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. Like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines.
Sunny Hostin was having a normal week. Or at least as normal as it gets when your job is sitting at a table on national television pretending your opinion is gospel. The View is rolling along smoothly, like a high school group project where everyone pretends they're not judging each other, but is absolutely judging each other. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, came the storm.
Now to some news. The feral monsters of The View say they've never heard of you-know-who. True, the show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard a car.
And not just any storm, a Category 5 hurricane of sarcasm, mockery, and unfiltered chaos straight from the Gutfeld zone, a late-night world where the dress code is smugness and the language is full-blown ridicule. It wasn't a debate. There was no face-to-face confrontation. This wasn't a bold showdown on airwaves between rival hosts. No, it was far worse. Sunny hosted and got roasted without even stepping into the room.
Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is.
A drive-a-bee satirical ambush executed with surgical precision by Kat Timpf and Greg Gutfeld, who spotted Sunny from afar and decided, yes, this is the week she gets metaphorically pancaked on primetime cable. Tim came in like a stealth bomber made of snark and delivered a payload of mockery wrapped in casual giggles. Gutfeld, naturally, was the circus ringmaster, turning the whole affair into a live autopsy of what he considers the pompous, delicate ecosystem of daytime TV moralizing, and unfortunately for Sunny, she was Exhibit A.
I just want to hit myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. She's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the poors. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart, and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to hit myself.
Now, let's be clear. Sunny didn't cry on air. There were no tissues, no emotional confessions, but her unraveling was of a different, more delightful variety. The kind where someone doesn't even realize they're spiraling, where the carefully curated image of confidence begins to fray one shaky statement at a time. The passive-aggressive smiles become a little more passive and a lot less aggressive. The talking points that used to land like hammers now sound like pillows thudding into a brick wall, because here's the thing. You can prepare for a debate, you can prepare for criticism, but you can't prepare for being turned into a punchline on a network you spent years pretending doesn't exist. That's the kind of sneak attack that makes the whole set shake. It wasn't just one joke, it was a masterclass in dismantling a persona. Sunny Hostin's entire media persona is like a soap opera lawyer who accidentally wandered into a comedy club. She brings the gravitas, the long pauses, the righteous indignation, and for her loyal daytime audience, that works. But when that same approach gets skewered in a comedy bit by people who make a living weaponizing irony, suddenly gravitas becomes overacting. Those long pauses become meme material. Righteous indignation. Oh honey, that just became the setup to another punchline.
Were you pretty surprised that they didn't know what this show was?
No, I'm also not surprised that there's one part of the video from the show yesterday that you left out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, can we roll that, please?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that?
Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this, his show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
Somebody's flirting with little Cat over here.
Well, she's the Republican one at the table, but I just think as a libertarian, I'm always looking to find common ground with other people because nobody really shares my politics. So I find some common ground in The View where she thinks I'm funny and I agree.
And what made this roasting especially brutal was that Kat Timpf didn't have to yell, didn't have to rage, didn't even have to try too hard. All it took was a raised eyebrow and a laugh that said, "Bless your heart." In a way that felt like a nuclear slap, she took Sunny's public musings and twisted them into a pretzel of absurdity, the kind that makes you wonder if anyone on The View has ever had to survive a day outside their bubble. Greg Gutfeld, ever the chaos conductor, made sure it wasn't just a skit. It was a roast for the ages, with the smug satisfaction of a cat who just knocked your grandma's urn off the shelf. He laid out the contrast between his crew's biting humor and the daytime table of self-s serious outrage. It wasn't even a fair fight. It was an intellectual dodgeball where Sunny never got to touch the ball, just got hit with it repeatedly, smiling as if it didn't hurt while quietly checking for bruises. But the real comedy came in the aftermath, not from Sunny's words, because she wisely said nothing. No tweet storms, no rebuttal monologues, not even a passive-aggressive Instagram story with inspirational quotes. Instead, it was in the eerie quiet, the shift you could feel it.
The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. They're turning on me. So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
Like when the teacher who always has the answers suddenly starts checking her notes too much. The shift in energy made it obvious she'd been rattled. See, the difference between a roast and an implosion is that a roast is over when the jokes stop. But Sunny kept reacting, not with her words but with her vibe. Her monologues on the show got longer. Her tone, once serene and smug, started creeping toward defensive and desperate. There was a subtle but hilarious attempt to reinforce her intellectual credibility, like someone who just got called out for using the word irregardless at a Mensa meeting, and the internet. Oh, the internet. Didn't miss a beat. TikTok Talk turned her expressions into emoji animations. Twitter spun her face into GIF reactions. YouTube analysts broke down her sudden shift in tone like it was the Zapruder film, and while her fans pretended everything was fine, the rest of the world knew when you get mocked on national TV by people who didn't even bother to show up, that leaves a mark. This wasn't just an attack on Sunny Host. This was a surgical strike against The View's entire vibe, the sanctimony, the elitism. The unshakable belief that everything said at that table is canon and every disagreement is a hate crime.
This 4-year-old was mocked by The View over his name. prompting Musk's child to exclaim, "Daddy, I didn't know hippos could talk." Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Tim and Gutfeld didn't just take down Sunny's argument. They took down the whole cathedral it was preached from, all with a laugh and a wink. It's not that Sunny isn't smart. She is, but that's the tragedy, because when someone smart walks into a trap of their own ego, it's even funnier. She underestimated the power of satire. She thought sincerity was her armor, but sarcasm doesn't care about sincerity. It eats it for breakfast and asks for a second helping. And the Gutfeld crew, they were already moving on to their next target, probably lining up another batch of self-serious media figures for open ridicule. Meanwhile, Sunny was left to pretend nothing happened, sitting at her table sipping coffee like the walls weren't on fire. It was like watching someone calmly redecorate their living room while a raccoon tears through the kitchen. What made this whole drama such a spectacle? It wasn't just the jokes, it was the exposure, the peeling back of layers. For years, The View has operated in a feedback loop of applause and moral superiority, like an exclusive club where the password is performative outrage. But this time someone crashed the party, kicked over the hors d'oeuvres table, and left with all the champagne.
Nah, you look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insulting.
No rebuttals were necessary. That was the point. Kat and Greg didn't need a reply. The laughter was the reply. The silence was the echo, and Sunny's attempt to soldier on to act unbothered only made it worse, because nothing says bothered like a person trying way too hard to look unfazed. And while Sunny's fans circled the wagons defending her with hashtags and high-minded think pieces, everyone else was too busy enjoying the fireworks. The truth is, when someone's entire persona is built on authority and control, watching them lose, both even for a second, is delicious. It's like watching a swan try to maintain dignity while slipping on a banana peel. That's the genius of comedy. It levels the playing field, it ignores credentials, resumes, and moral positioning. It cares only about the absurdity of the moment. And Sunny in that moment became comedy gold, not because she was ridiculous, but because she took herself too seriously to realize how ridiculous she looked. The View will go on. Of course, the coffee mugs will keep clinking. The scripted banter will roll on, and Sunny will resume her role as the table's moral compass. But something changed. A little crack appeared in the porcelain, and every time someone watches that roast, every time another meme surfaces, that crack gets a little wider.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't.
They never even had to say her name. That's what made it so deliciously brutal. Gutfeld and Timpf essentially held up a mirror, polished it with sarcasm, and Sunny Hostin sprinted across the room to punch her own reflection. You know you've truly lost the plot when someone throws shade vaguely in your direction, and you stand up in a crowded room, shout, "How dare you?" and assume everyone was thinking of you anyway. That's not a rebuttal. That's a confession. Kat. Timpf, with her signature blend of deadpan and devil-may-care, dropped a roast so broad yet so specific in energy that only someone with a guilty conscience could possibly take offense. And that's the thing. Sunny wasn't dragged. She willingly jumped onto the comedy bonfire, arms wide open, shouting, "You'll hear from my publicist." Meanwhile, Gutfeld just kept laughing like someone watching an improv show where the clueless actor has no idea they're the punchline. The beauty of it all is Timpf and Gutfeld barely had to break a sweat. They didn't need facts, they didn't need names, they just needed a tone. That's it, a mocking tone, vaguely intellectual with a splash of frat party energy, and host unraveled like a cat in a yarn factory. She did all the heavy lifting. Honestly, it was almost generous of her gut. Feld could have sat there reading IKEA instructions, and somehow Sunny would have claimed it was an assault on her moral authority.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist.
And that's when you know you've won. Not when the opponent fights back, but when they start responding to attacks that weren't even launched. She essentially stormed out of a party no one invited her to, then called the cops and complained about the vibe. It's hard to lose a battle that never started, but Sunny Host managed to do it with flair, complete with dramatic pauses and furrowed brows. Meanwhile, the viewers, they were the real victors. Watching a TV personality implode over a roast not even directed at her is better than anything on Netflix. It's like reality TV met Succession and had a messy, emotionally unstable child, and we couldn't look away, not because it was classy, not because it was meaningful, but because nothing's funnier than watching ego try to wrestle satire and get bodice slammed by its own seriousness in the end when egos enter the arena. With comedy, they never walk out with dignity, but they do leave behind incredible footage, endless memes, and a trail of overly serious sound bites begging for a remix, not because Sunny is weak, but because comedy doesn't need permission, it just needs timing, and Kat T and Greg Gutfeld had impeccable timing. They struck when the moment was ripe, delivered a roast that didn't need a punch, and let the aftermath do all the talking. So as Sunny recites her next monologue, carefully worded and delivered with perfect poise, somewhere out there Kat is probably laughing over a martini, and Greg is busy writing his next monologue with Sunny Host's face still on the dartboard, not because they hate her, but because nothing fuels satire quite like someone pretending they're above it. And Sunny, she'll keep the mask on, keep the tone polished, but the audience knows now they saw behind the curtain, and once you've seen the wizard fumble with a smoke machine, it's hard to go back. In the end, the loudest message wasn't spoken, it was delivered in sarcasm, wrapped in mockery, and served cold. And for Sunny, the worst part wasn't being roasted, it was realizing the roast was over, and she was still cooking.